General Hospital spoilers tease that. And I have to say, this whole Windermere mess is getting darker by the second because Josslyn is not just trapped. She is trapped in a place that feels like it was built to swallow secrets whole. And the wild part, at least to me, is that Cassius may have already made one huge mistake by underestimating her. That right there is the kind of arrogance that always comes back to bite somebody on this show. Cassius clearly thought Josslyn was weak, cornered, and too locked down to fight back. Big mistake. Because the second she gets her hands on that chair, everything flips. 1 second she is the prisoner, and the next second she is the one swinging for freedom. Like her life depends on it. Because honestly, it does, and that is where the tension really starts to crackle. I do not think Cassius sees it coming at all. He may go into that moment believing Josslyn is too frightened, too exhausted, too boxed in to make a move. But that is exactly when General Hospital loves to twist the knife. Josslyn grabbing that chair and striking Cassius feels like one of those brutal, frantic survival moments where somebody finally says, "Enough, I am getting out of here or I am dying here." And the fact that Cassius ends up injured and unconscious on the floor, that is not just a beat in the story. That is the whole trapdoor opening under everybody's feet. What I keep circling back to is this, because it matters. And it matters a lot. Josslyn may be imprisoned deep under Windermere, but Sidwell might not even know she is there. That is a huge detail. If you ask me, that makes the whole thing even more sinister. It means Cassius may have moved her and hidden her without giving the main power player the full picture. And that is the kind of layered secrecy this soap loves to feed on. Because when one person thinks they control the board and another person is moving the pieces in the shadows, somebody's going to get burned. Or in this case, probably both. And then there is Pascal. Now, I really do think Pascal is the name to keep your eye on here. Because if anybody knows where Josslyn is being held, it feels like Pascal is the one sitting closest to the truth. Not Sidwell, not Cassius, but Pascal, the quiet one, the helper, the man in the background who probably sees more than he says. That is the scary part. The people who smile politely and keep moving through the castle halls are often the ones holding the sharpest secrets. So when Josslyn makes her move, I do not think she is just escaping a room. I think she is trying to escape a system. A whole rotten underground setup. And that means every step she takes toward the door is a step towards somebody noticing. That is why I think the preview feels so explosive. Josslyn grabs a chair, strikes Cassius, and for a second she may actually think she has won. Cassius is down, the room is open, and she can feel the air of escape right in front of her. But this is where the trap snaps shut again, because General Hospital does not usually hand out clean exits. It hands out hope and then smashes it with a steel pipe. So just when Josslyn is about to get out of that prison, I think the next shock lands from behind her. My guess is Pascal. And honestly, that would make perfect sense because if anyone has been guarding the secret, it is the person most likely to appear when Josslyn thinks she is finally free. And that double hit sequence is what makes this whole thing so nerve-rattling. Cassius goes down first, Josslyn makes her move, and then Pascal maybe catches her in the act and forces her back into captivity. That is the kind of ugly, efficient reversal that this show loves when it wants the audience squirming in their seats. Because now Josslyn is not just a hostage anymore. She is a witness to how dangerous Windermere really is. She has seen the system from the inside. She knows somebody is keeping people buried under that castle. And once she knows that, she becomes way more dangerous than any locked door. But here is the twist I cannot stop thinking about, guys. In the middle of all this violence, Cassius is not just left there to rot on the floor. No, Pascal may actually end up saving him and moving him into another room inside the castle. That detail changes everything for me. It says Pascal is not just a bystander or a thug. He is managing damage control. He is cleaning up after the mess. And when someone is cleaning up a mess this fast, it usually means they are not afraid of what happened. They are afraid of who might find out. That is a very different kind of fear. That is the kind that keeps people obedient. Then Britt enters the picture, and now the whole thing gets even more interesting because once Pascal calls Britt to tend to Cassius, we are not just talking about injuries anymore. We are talking about medical care being dragged straight into a secret crime scene. Britt is a doctor, so of course she is going to try to figure out what happened. That is who she is. She is not the kind of person who just patches somebody up and walks away without asking questions. Not when the patient turns up injured under circumstances that do not add up. And if Pascal thinks he can keep her in the dark forever, I do not buy that for a second. To me, Britt being brought in is the exact kind of move that feels harmless on the surface, but turns into a whole avalanche later. Because once Britt starts looking at Cassius, she is going to notice things. She is going to feel the weird energy in the room. She is going to clock the secrecy, the tension, the way Pascal shuts down instead of explaining. And I think Britt is too smart, too sharp, and too stubborn to let that slide. She may pretend to go along with the story, but inside she is already piecing the whole thing together. That is where the real danger starts. Not when somebody gets hurt, but when the wrong person starts connecting dots in silence. And from there, Britt may be the one who uncovers Josslyn's location. That is the part I find especially juicy, because it means the rescue does not happen by accident. It happens because Britt follows the trail, keeps her mouth shut, and works in secret. That is very soap. Quiet investigation. Hidden motives. A rescue plan forming under everybody else's nose. And Lucas being in on it makes it even better, because that tells me this is not going to be some random burst of heroism. It is going to be deliberate. Careful. Sneaky in the best way. I like that for Josslyn, because right now she needs more than luck. She needs somebody who can get in, find the truth, and get her out before Windermere swallows her completely. And if Britt and Lucas are the ones setting that plan in motion, then there is real hope buried in all this chaos. But not easy hope. Not clean hope. The kind that comes with risk, timing, and a whole lot of whispering in corridors. Because by the time the second attack winds down, everybody involved is going to be bruised, rattled, and hiding something. So when I look at this whole chain of events, I see a prison break that goes sideways, a secret keeper in Pascal, a wounded Cassius, and Britt quietly stepping into the middle of a nightmare that is much bigger than it first appears. I also see Josslyn proving she is not just a victim waiting to be saved. She is fighting, clawing, and forcing the story to move. And that matters. That gives the whole thing its pulse. And the way I see it, once Britt and Lucas start working behind the scenes, Josslyn's rescue stops feeling like a maybe and starts feeling like the next explosive turn. Not immediate, not easy, but coming. Because on General Hospital, a secret this deep never stays buried for long. It just waits for the right person to trip over it.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.